This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's a night here in Doha, a couple more days in Qatar before heading back home. Of course, Canada playing Morocco tomorrow, but I know what we're talking about today, and that is the Winnipeg Jets coming off a 5-0 win over the let me just quickly turn this off. Hold on a sec, Reem.
What's going on over there?
I don't know. I've got a, that's what's going on. I had the YouTube thing open. Anyway, sorry about that. Jets, 5-0 win over the Colorado Avalanche last night. What a victory. And people are fired up right now. Got to tell you, it was, it's tough to be able to see this, watch these games in the middle of the night here. But I will say this. Worthwhile getting up in the middle of the night to see what this Winnipeg Jets team is doing last night. A hat trick from Blake Wheeler, a 40-save shutout by Connor Hellebuck, and the Winnipeg Jets knocking on the door of first place again, up at the top 5 in the league in points percentage right now. And the team and the fan base is fired up as they could not have started this 4-game homestand in a better fashion than they did last night against the Colorado Avalanche. We're going to talk all about it today. Paul Edmonds is going to join us coming up in the next segment. We'll also have Murat and Alex Limoges, the leading scorer of the Manitoba Moose, also popping by a little bit later on. We'll certainly talk about a huge, I should say a report, I guess, from Farhan Lalji that Mike O'Shea is going to be back with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and lots going on right now in Winnipeg sports. Remo, what is going on? How are you back at the mothership?
I'm feeling good. I'm battling through some stuff, but hard not to be excited. Yesterday was a great evening for Winnipeg sports with the Jets, the leaders in points percentage in the Central Division, taking down the defending Stanley Cup champions. And then after the game, we had the breaking news from Farhan, a very quiet news drop that Mike O'Shea has re-signed. Nothing, confirmed yet from the Bombers, but Farhan pretty good with all that. So, it was pretty awesome. A great game. Blake Wheeler, I don't want to say turning back the clock, but he's turning it back only a couple years to like the 20s, 18, 19 levels here with his, I said yesterday, his assists per game higher than they've been in some years, but it was the goals yesterday with him and Scheifele and Cole Perfetti, and it was just awesome to watch these guys have these passing plays where you could see the chemistry so clear.
Yeah, we got to hear Notorious B.I.G. bang it out 3 times last night at the arena as well. I was sorry I missed that. Listen, we're all over this. I do, of course, want to thank the sponsors that make this show each and every day right off the bat. Our friends at Coolbet Canada, the big reason why I've been here, being able to bring you all some of the sights and sounds of the World Cup here on the program, as well as Not Auto Corp, Princess Auto, Consolidated Supply, Wallace & Wallace, Vita Health Fresh Market, Royal Sports, F Apparel, Culligan Water, Canadian Club Whiskey, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and Nick and Nikki DQ. And Remo, we've got great news. The winter is here, and it's great to welcome back Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Hey, no one likes to talk about it in this city, but we need to talk about it as the cold weather hits. You need your car to start every time, and that's where Manitoba Battery comes in. You're not sure you need a new battery? Well, you can head on down, see Donnie and the gang at 1026 Logan, and test your battery and help you figure out whether it's time to replace it or not. If you already know it's time to get a new battery for your car, then save time and money by letting Manitoba Battery deliver the battery right to your door. You can order online or by phone, and they'll have their battery to you the same day as long as they know by 3 p.m. that day. It is that simple. There's only one place where you can buy a battery from the comfort of your home and save money while you do it, and that is Manitoba Battery. Shout out to Donnie. Love their staff there. Great to have them back on board. Find them at www.manitobabattery.com. All right, Reem, let's get to this game last night. So much to talk about. And, I went back and rewatched the extended highlights and as well as some of the highlights of Connor Hellebuck. And just before we get to Blake Wheeler and what he and Cole Perfetti and Mark Scheifele did together last night, if you just looked at the shot totals for the game, you might think that this was another game that Connor Hellebuck stole, because there has been some games earlier this season where that was exactly the case. That was not the case last night. That might have been one of the more ho-hum 40-save shutouts that Connor Hellebuck's had in his career. And when you think about the fact that it was against the Stanley Cup champions in a massive matchup at the beginning of the Central Division, I think it speaks even more to just how impressive that win was and how well this team is playing right now. Long gone was the doom and gloom around this chat room and this program after that beatdown last week in Minnesota. The way the team came back with the win in Dallas, a just complete shellacking of the Blackhawks on Sunday. And then again, we heard all those things. Oh, a tough game, the first game back from a road trip. The Winnipeg Jets were ready last night. Rick Bowness had his team ready to go. And, led by Blake Wheeler and, of course, Connor Hellebuck, the rock, the foundation of this team, a 5-0 win. And, early on this season, it was the St. Louis game. Then it was that Dallas game. Now this game, 3 huge Central Division matchups, real tests for the Winnipeg Jets. They passed for flying colors, and as you noted in the preamble going into the game tonight or yesterday, or the show today, I should say, this is now the best start in franchise history for the Winnipeg Jets, and even Dom and Dom's model smiling on the Winnipeg Jets as we're looking like 80% to make the playoffs right now.
I was going to say, should we start planning the whiteout party? Should we put in pre-orders for WST, white t-shirts that we can give away in April? The Jets, and according to Dom's model, 30% to make the playoffs to start the season. They're up to 80. They're top in the Central in points percentage. They're 6th in the league in points percentage. And the way that they're playing, it seems completely sustainable. And coming from where we were last year, out of the playoffs, this year you thought, okay, maybe they can squeak in the last spot. To have this kind of start, which is comparable to the team's best season in 2017-18, shout out to Spinorama Hockey, who said after 21 games, 2017-18, 13-5-3, 29 points. So this year, 14-6-1, 29 points. 2017-18 was the team's best season ever. I never saw this, and I think it's fair to ask us, this was a question from the summer, is Rick Bowness a miracle worker? Because seemingly that's been the only change is behind the bench, right? Is that the biggest major change? The defense is all the same. The penalty kill is much improved. I know Connor Hellebuck's, he's having his best season, but it seems like there's so many different parts coming together, which is why the team is where they are.
Yeah, and listen, I totally understand the frustration and the impatience of the fan base in the offseason, considering the way last season went. And it was a bold, I think, move for the Winnipeg Jets to not make those big changes. And as we've talked about, trades are maybe sometimes harder to make in reality than we can make on message boards and in the chat room and while we're talking with guests here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But Kevin Cheveldayoff said himself at the beginning of training camp that the hiring of Rick Bowness was, to use his words, a seismic shift. And there was a lot of people that scoffed at that. There was a lot of people that, sort of said, yeah, okay, whatever. It looks like he was right. And it's hard to even pinpoint where to start with the Bowness effect on this team right now. But I'll tell you what, we saw it last night in the way that the Winnipeg Jets defended and held the Colorado Avalanche to very few really legitimate high-danger scoring chances. The way that they've got buy-in from every single player on the roster. And I'm not sure if you heard Connor Hellebuck after the game yesterday, Reem, but he said a couple of things, and one that really stood out to me. And again, he didn't want to, and I think he said, listen, it's not like yet last year everything was terrible, but he said that the atmosphere and the vibe around this team is special right now. And guys are fired up to go to work, and guys are having fun. And you'll recall a number of times on this show, I'd said that this team in the past has looked like it is every single thing that they do is laborious, is work. They hadn't been having any fun. And listen, I know it's a job and these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, it is a game. It is sports. And you need to feel a part of a team. You need to feel like, you're enjoying yourself. And there's nothing more fun than winning. And Rick Bowness, through the changes he made from day one in training camp, frankly, before training camp even started, which is a great segue to Blake Wheeler. Everything that he's done, he's seemingly pushed the right buttons. He said the things that needed to be said. He's empowered the players that needed to be empowered. And this is truly a team that I think we've seen come together far earlier than I thought was possible, and I think most people. And then here we sit right now with the Jets, with that record you just laid out, knocking on the door of first place with some games in hand on the Dallas Stars, and getting ready for 3 more games on this homestand as we get into December. And, first up, it was all about an American Thanksgiving last week. And, I know that the Minnesota game was miserable. And there's been a couple games like that, but the way they bounced back as well has been so impressive. It is, there's a lot of great things that have happened. And we'll talk about Josh Morrissey and Cole Perfetti, who I think is going to join us maybe on tomorrow's show as well, and Connor Hellebuck. But I believe there was a couple of conversations. We said, if you think that this team can make the playoffs, find a prop on Rick Bowness to win the Jack Adams, because that is basically what is going to be the difference. And I'll tell you what, if I had a Jack Adams vote, it would be a pretty damn simple X beside his name right now. Although obviously what's going on in Jersey is pretty special as well.
Yeah, well, the talk now is, okay, so the Jets, now that they're in a playoff spot, they have a person who up for the Jack Adams, Rick Bowness, Hellebuck, an easy Vezina pick, Norris, Josh Norrisy, getting more points. He had 2 more yesterday. And what about, I think, Rocket Richard? Last year Kyle Connor was up there, got off to the slow start. Mark Scheifele's got 12. Jason Robertson is kind of running away with it here with 19. So, I mean, the team, I mentioned it at the start yesterday, a lot of reasons for optimism. They're having so much success. Everyone's seemingly having a career year. I mean, this train is going, and I mean, you loved, and after that Minnesota game, you loved how they said, no, we're going to look at this tape and we're going to be better from it. And they came back and they were better from it. And it wasn't just talk. And they've talked a lot about how they can be better in areas they can improve. And they've backed everything up from what they said they were going to do in the preseason. It's amazing to watch. This is incredible. And I think a lot of people feeling really positive about the team, maybe more positive than they've been in some time.
You know what? We got to talk about Wheeler and the hat trick last night. He's an incredibly proud person, and he's been, so important to this franchise from the day that this team got here from Atlanta. And what the hand that he was dealt at the beginning of the season, while I think obviously necessary and the benefits of that decision, I think are showing themselves night in and night out with this team, both on and off the ice. That was a a real challenge, I think, for him. And we spoke about it. This could go one of a couple ways. By all accounts, and Rick Bowness talked about it after the game, Wheeler has handled that as professionally as possible. And, I really, really felt great for Blake to get that hat trick last night. And, he has shown, and I said maybe the greatest display of leadership would be to handle that in a professional manner and to buy into what this team and the head coach was selling. And who we are right now, Remo. I mean, we'll get to Josh Morrissey. I mean, this season he's still leading the team and right there near the top of defensemen scoring in the entire National Hockey League. But Remo, with that hat trick last night, Blake Wheeler now has 20 points in 21 games. The guys that were consistently taking shots at Blake Wheeler, saying that he's a fourth line player right now. You don't hear them very often. And he is he the same player he was when he had back-to-back 91-point season? No. Is he someone that can help you win hockey games? Especially right now with Nikolai Ehlers out long-term. He stepped up in many ways on and off the ice. And I don't think that there's a Jet fan without an agenda that wasn't smiling last night, almost like the smile we saw from Wheeler that you posted on social media. That was a pretty great moment. Can't say enough about finally him being rewarded and the results that he's given the team right now. Just 1 point off a point a game pace so far through 21.
Yeah, Blake Wheeler, I mean, he's always had the vision, the passing. He hasn't been much of he's more of a playmaker than a scorer, but he can put him in. And yesterday, Cole Perfetti set him up 2 beauties. I mean, the first one in the slot, I mean, what a pass that was on the zone entry with Mark Scheifele and Cole Perfetti. Then again, Scheifele and Perfetti with the spin pass to Wheeler. Maybe got a little help from Cale Makar on the way in. But, I mean, you look at the point, seemingly every top scorer on the Jets, Morrissey leading the team 25 and 21. Connor 21 and 21. Dubois 20 and 21. All career highs. Wheeler 20 and 21. Scheifele, leading the team in goals with 12. He's got 18 and 21. And then Perfetti, who's up there among rookies, 14 and 20. Even Adam Lowry, who had a down year last year, he's like more than 0.5 points per game. I mean, every player is playing their best hockey right now, and so much fun to watch. And it was a great atmosphere at the Canada Life Center yesterday. So, I mean, what more can you say about this team? Again, a blast. They're winning games, playing the right way. They're getting amazing goaltending. The goal differential, they're still up there. Sometimes you look at, hey, goal differential. Now, look, I said yesterday, the record of 1-goal games. Maybe it's too good. Okay, so Hustler said something happened with his computer, and he's got to restart. Okay, that's probably a good thing. Anyways, I'll shut up. Let's hear what Rick Bowness had to say yesterday after the game, because I was interested. I can talk all I want about Blake Wheeler, but here is Rick Bowness, and he had some words about Blake Wheeler as well as I bring this. Oh wait.
Over the last, this is clearly the best he's played over the last, and I talked to him this morning, but he's skating a lot better right now. He's been a very positive influence in our room from day one, because I stand in the back and I kind of watch, and I see him going around talking to all the guys. So I think he knows where he is at his career, and he's doing everything he can to help this team win and help this team get better. So the on ice is one thing, and his play is speaking for itself, but just as important to me is what he's doing off the ice. And when I see him going talking to guys, and on the practice he's talking to guys, and on the bench he's talking to guys, those are the things that are just as important to me, because at this stage of his career, the man wants to win. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any doubt about Blake Wheeler's competitiveness and his desire to win, and the way that he's acted since having the captaincy removed. I don't think he's really changed. And Rick Bowness talked about his impact mentoring other players, like Cole Perfetti, who was setting him up for a couple goals last night.
When we talked to her, when we had to go through this whole captaincy thing, I still told her, you're still the leader of this hockey club. Right, so the C or the A, don't worry about it. Be you, and give him a lot of credit for he's done a much better job behind the scenes and off the ice than anyone realizes, other than me, because I get to watch it.
There you go. And look, we did see Scheifele and Wheeler together for the first time this season. They played so well together in the past. Bones talked about reuniting the pair, who Wheeler had 4 points, and Scheifele and Perfetti at 3. He talked about pairing Scheifele with Wheeler.
Just to try it, we need to score some more goals.
I'm back, y'all.
So, and when you have I think early in the year we needed Cole to play with some bigger guys, with Doobie and Wheels. And now that he's clearly he's adjusted very well, and you just got to try it to see what it looks like with Mark and Wheels, and based on the history of Doobie and Kyle. So that gave us the option. At some point, I knew this was going to develop. Didn't know when. So there was going to come a point that I knew we was going to put Doobie back with KC, give the kids some time, and see what develops.
Yeah, there is Bones talking about that. And you know what is funny, Remo? I was thinking about this last night. There was for a big part of the fan base, and I think a big part of this is just some of the things that went on for a long time under Paul Maurice. There was a big reticence to split up Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele, play them with other players. And we didn't see, listen, you're without Nikolai Ehlers. Other players, Mason Appleton, he was the guy that went up into that spot. Then Morgan Barron is out. And they hadn't gone to Wheeler playing with Scheifele for the majority of the first 20 games of the season. I think that would have been greeted. It wouldn't have been a very popular move earlier in the year. But the fact that Bonus said that, at some point we knew that would probably happen, or that would happen. And to get the results that they have so far. And listen, Wheeler is... Listen, he's on the back nine of his career for sure. I think he's now understanding what he does very well, what he can do. And you put him together with Mark Scheifele, and the guy that really is the key right now, I think, that maybe we haven't talked enough about, is Cole Perfetti, who is now able to, I think, keep up. I think he's now really, feeling comfortable as an everyday National Hockey Leaguer. He's had some real tough nights so far against teams like Minnesota and Calgary that have been really physical on him. And he's learning what it takes to survive through those and still be effective for this club. And honestly, I don't think we could have imagined a better start for those players putting together. And at the same time, it puts Kyle Connor with Pierre-Luc Dubois, who, just going based on results, Kyle Connor has played his best hockey and has been the most effective and the most productive playing with Dubois right now. And again, it's crazy that we're talking about this sort of success without Nikolai Ehlers, of which so much was expected this year. But it's a pretty darn good thing going on right now. And to think that hopefully this team gets a healthy Ehlers back a little later on, the addition that will be to this club, not to mention the ability to make moves if they're in the mix, which I think we expect them to be right now because of the cap situation. Honestly, this is the best case scenario that I don't think anyone could have realistically predicted at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I thought we were going to be talking about trading someone for futures at the deadline. But now I'm thinking, okay, well, who are they going to be trading away to get players to help them towards the playoffs? Is it going to be a forward? What are they going to do? I didn't think we were going to be here this early, like counting down towards the playoffs, but you can't argue with the results. Process has been strong. They're winning the games they should win. They're beating teams who are in their division, going up for the playoffs. Like they beat Dallas twice, Colorado twice. Minnesota was a stinker. That was a scheduled loss, like Thanksgiving around Minnesota. Not much they could have done there. So, and St. Louis as well. It's been pretty awesome to see how things are going, and they are second in the division, but first among points percentages. Dallas has played 2 more games.
Yeah, well, listen, we're going to talk about this with the voice of the Jets, our good friend Paul Edmonds, in just a second. Hey, as we do it, I got to give a big thanks to our friends at Consolidated Supply. Remo, listen, I'm going to have to reload this.
No,
Give
don't.
me
I got it. You're good. You don't have to do
Okay.
anything.
The only problem is that I can't click OK
I
for whatever reason.
You don't have to. I fixed it.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well done. Anyways, I'm back next week and marbles are back. We'll do the marble race tomorrow. But if you haven't heard, there's the 12 days of Christmas. Well, we're also going to have the 12 days of marbles on the program coming up. Our friends at Consolidated Supply have joined us for the Consolidated Supply Marbles Tournament of Champions. If you're listening to the podcast wondering what we're talking about, you got to get here towards the end of the program on Friday to be a part of it. And we will be doing 12 consecutive days of marbles where we'll be qualifying 3 winners to go in for a championship race in the final day of 2022. And the winner will receive a pair of Bomber season tickets for 2023, courtesy of Consolidated Supply. Cannot wait to do that. And of course, Consolidated Supply is ready for a huge 2023. They are your first choice for golf turf, irrigation systems, artificial turf, and of course, golf carts is the club car dealer, both for golf courses, but also industrial use, 2, 4, 6-seaters, and individual ones if you want to trick one out for the cabin next year. They've also got amazing spas, backyard outdoor kitchens, and more for landscaping. Spicy Joe and the gang have everything that can help you make that dream backyard come true. Find out more. Pop down and see them. Open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or check out their website. They've just relaunched it at cte.com. I'm going to be talking to Paulie about Josh Morrissey and the season he's having right now. And a great time to mention that we've teamed up with our great sponsors at Wallace & Wallace to help the Dream Factory and recognize some unsung heroes in the community. If you have someone in your life that's spending selfless, countless hours volunteering at the community center, at a local charity, or maybe just doing things quietly for neighbors that no one else notices, tell us about them. Send us an email, unsunghero@winnipegsportstalk.com. We'll be awarding a winner every month for our nominees with an autographed Josh Morrissey jersey, as well as making a $500 donation from Wallace & Wallace, which Josh and Margot Morrissey are going to match to the Dream Factory. Of course, Josh is a spokesperson for the Dream Factory as well. And hey, the folks at Vita Health want to remind you, November is Men's Health Month. I know we're just wrapping it up right now, but it is important to take care of yourself, fellas. And no better time like the present. Vita Health is the best spot for natural and organic supplements, things to help all the things get most out of your life with live long and live healthy. Not to mention the best selection of local products as well. And great supplements from Canadian brands like Prairie Naturals. Pop down and see them at one of 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge. And maybe your best bet is to check out their fully shoppable website online at myvita.ca. All right, I am going to see if I can see you guys again. Remo, if you can, welcome Paulie in, and I'm just going to see if I can reload this camera. We're having some issues right now after that restart, but we got to bring in the voice of the Winnipeg Jets, Paul Edmonds, to talk about that big win last night against the Colorado Avalanche. Paulie, what's up?
Nah, not much, Hustler. Thanks for having me. I hope you're having a great time, and I've been following the Doha double. I've been trying to cash in on the Doha double ever since you got to Qatar. I don't know if you can hear me, see me. I've lost you. There you are.
I'm here.
You're back.
I'm here, Paul. Oh, Hustler.
Yeah, and so am I, Paulie. Yeah, I'm not, we're having a few technical gremlins here. We've been pretty good through the week here in Qatar, but, we weren't getting through completely unscathed. That being said, let's get right to it. 5-0 last night over the Colorado Avalanche. Blake Wheeler with a hat trick. Connor Hellebuck with a 40-save shutout. But a 40-save shutout that honestly was about as ho-hum, I think, as you'll see right now because of the way the team played in front of it. What a great way to start off this homestand and build off the way they finished that road trip.
Yeah, I would say kind of a casual sort of performance for a shutout, but there was some tester saves near the end. I think of that run down the middle by Anton Bleed that ended up being an opportunity for Colorado at that point just to break the shutout, right? So he had a couple of saves that were challenging for sure near the end that he had to make to preserve the shutout. So that's now number 31 of his career and third one this year. So he's played real well and he's backstopped Winnipeg, but I think they've been much better in front of him overall this year, and just the commitment to defense has been much better for the Winnipeg Jets. They systematically just seem to know where they need to be, where to go, and how to support each other. And Mark Scheifele talked about that before the game yesterday, actually, and he was a big part of Blake Wheeler's fourth shutout of his career, fourth hat trick of his career. So things are going swimmingly for the Winnipeg Jets. And it's interesting because I think that there was a lot of people, and rightfully so, that were looking at major changes in the offseason for this team. It never happened. And collectively, this group is pretty good. They just needed the right guy to kind of lead them after a change last year. And it looks like they found the right guy, or collectively a number of guys. I mean, Scott Arniel's involved in that along with Rick Bowness, and certainly you've got Marty Johnston and Brad Lauer. I mean, they've all worked tirelessly to try to get this thing righted, and it's been a quick start. And so far now the Winnipeg Jets are challenging for first place. It's been great because I think it reinvigorated the players for sure that are playing right now, Hustler. But most importantly, I think it reinvigorated the fan base here in the capital region.
Paulie, listen, you're one of the guys that's with the team every single day on the road as well. Connor Hellebuck spoke about it yesterday. Just the vibe around the team, how much fun these guys are having together. What have you seen around this team from day one of training camp, the way that they've grown as a group, and the results they've had, the belief that's been built leading from what Rick Bowness has been preaching, what that's happened on the ice and on the scoreboard, and what that has built to a team that, pulled off that big win last night against the defending champs?
Well, relationships in the dressing room at the end of last year were as tattered as everybody had reported. I think that they were more connected than people had thought or learned or understood. And that's, I think, been solidified this year because, again, it's been the same group that has returned, essentially. There's been a few other alterations to the roster from last year. There always is. Even championship teams never retain their entire 23-man roster. But I think everybody gets along. And I think once you have a system that's in place, as I talked about, and the rewards start to come in the form of victories, a lot more than losses, then the buy-in starts and the confidence level goes up and everybody's enjoying themselves. And I think that this team is fairly connected with each other. It's become an older group. It's not a young group anymore. Yeah, sure, you're bringing in Dylan Sandberg, but you're also bringing in Cole Perfetti. But the integration of those players, I think, is much easier when you have a more veteran lineup. And the Winnipeg Jets are just that. And I was thinking about this today because I was wondering if you were going to ask me this question. And the answer that I have for you is, sure, Kyle Connor would love to get to 50 goals or 60 goals, and so would Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler would love to have another 91-point season, right? I don't know if all of that's going to happen, but I think they're okay with that because collectively you don't have anybody really in the top 5 of scoring. You've got a defenseman that's leading your team in scoring, one of 3 of those in the National Hockey League. But I think that if the winning comes, first and foremost, the personal goals will be satisfied with whatever you attain in terms of offense if the team is winning. And if you get to the Stanley Cup final and if you happen to win it, then I think that all bets are off in terms of what you wanted to accomplish in terms of a personal goal. It was funny, and I'll tell you this story. When Blake Wheeler was in Los Angeles with the team, it was right around the time that his good friend and former teammate at the University of Minnesota, and a guy that he's played with on some international stages with Team USA in Phil Kessel, was just about ready to break the Ironman streak for consecutive games played. Plus, it was 400 goals. He's getting close to 1,000 points, all those types of things and milestones that he was hitting. And I asked Blake, with all of what's gone on in his career, that being Phil Kessel's, with the numbers that I just mentioned and rolled out, is he a Hall of Famer? And what stands out the most in terms of those numbers? And without even question and hesitation, he said, 2 cups. So that's where it is for Blake Wheeler right now. It's about winning. And that's permeated, I think, right through that locker room. It's not about individual goals and objectives. Certainly you need to have your scorer score and your goaltender to play well and put up some great numbers. But if all of that works in your favor and collectively everybody's having good years, then I think the team will benefit from that. It's all about winning right now for this group. I don't think it's about trying to get to 50 goals per se. I think this team is looking at a window that exists for a couple of years, especially with some contracts that are upcoming after next season. Blake Wheeler's being one, Mark Scheifele's being another, Connor Hellebuck. I could go on. I think it's about winning more than anything else for this group because they are past the point of being a young, up-and-coming, sort of rookie-laden, inexperienced team in the National Hockey League.
Well, you're exactly right on that. And Wheeler has been the guy here for so long, and we all know the way the team started. The team started, and the first thing Rick Bowness did before training camp even started, saying that they were going to go without a captain. And that's not an easy thing for, I think, any proud individual to have happen to them, Paul. And I really thought that we'll see the way this works out. But the best example of leadership could possibly be for a guy to embrace that, to accept it, and to do everything he can to help his team win. And you look right now in the scoring, he's 1 point off a point a game so far this year. And of course, now back with Mark Scheifele for the first time, his longtime running mate, along with Cole Perfetti. And man, they've clicked right off the bat. What have you thought about that line? Wheeler's performance yesterday, but also the impact that Cole Perfetti is having with an opportunity for a primetime spot with 2 guys that have been incredibly productive for a very long time.
Well, first to Wheeler, I mean, you talked about running mate. I think they're after another 4 years. They're championing for another 4 years, Hustler. To use sort of a political banter there. But I think that Mark Scheifele's play has been re-energized. He's been engaged again. He said to me yesterday before the game that he feels like he's playing his best hockey of his entire career and certainly in the last 4 years. He's really benefited from the coaching change in understanding where to be, what to do, and really the importance of winning. Then you factor in Blake Wheeler beside him. That's a familiar face on his right wing side for many, many years. And Blake looks re-energized, and there's been some pressure alleviated off of Blake because I think the captaincy has been removed, and he doesn't have to talk to the media and be responsible for other things that comes with, the badge that you wear as the captaincy on your lapel. And so those two have always had a fit, and the chemistry, I think, is unarguable when it comes to how they have performed and how prolific they have been over the years. Now they brought this young guy along, and I think Cole would be the first to admit that he was a little unsure on where he fit in on that line. Was he a passer? Was he a shooter? Was he going to distribute? Was he going and taking the puck to the net and making plays? I mean, where did he all fit in? And I think that there was some criticisms at the start of the year, and this isn't major, but they were almost overpassing at times, that line. They were trying to be too cute. And now I think that Cole Perfetti is really felt comfortable as a National Hockey League player, as a 20-year-old, soon to be 21-year-old in January. And he's gotten some games under his belt. He's got some experience now. He feels like he belongs. The confidence level has risen. He also, sat down after an egregious turnover in Minnesota and got a bit of a wake-up call from there and had a good little chat with the head coach after that about where he needed to be stronger and better, and has taken that and used that to his advantage and to his benefit. And now you're seeing, I think, the creativity of Cole Perfetti, and one of the reasons why in 2020 he was drafted 10th overall by the Winnipeg Jets, because he has complemented that line or those other 2 pieces as being a very top shelf line in the National Hockey League again. And they brought this young guy along, and he has certainly leveled off to a tier that I don't know that many expected him to get to. But you watched him in that game against Colorado, and he was equally as good as anybody else on that ice when it came to making plays, spotting people, having the vision, putting it on the tape, and then certainly being able to finish or help others finish. So he's been a good complementary piece, and he's only going to get better. So that whole line has really jived for different reasons. You brought Blake back into the fold and got him re-energized. You got Mark Scheifele playing his best 200-foot hockey in years, and you brought along a young guy that's really only going to help the Winnipeg Jets for many, many years to come.
Well, and at the same time, it allows PLD to hook back up with Kyle Connor, who together, played so well last year and was such a big part of, what success the Jets did have. And certainly one of the biggest thing was Kyle Connor's incredible goal scoring season. He was real snake bit at the beginning of the season, Paulie. It's certainly started to click right now. And, it's sort of the Kyle Connor we expect. But having those guys together, I think, is key. And it really does, remember last year we were always talking about it seemed to be one line or the other that were going at the same time. I mean, right now, in all aspects of the hockey game, it seems both of those lines are going. But certainly I think KFC quite comfortable playing alongside Pierre.
Well, I think when you're the type of player that Kyle Connor is, where you're more of a finesse guy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he gets in on somebody's hands and he can win a puck battle for sure. And then he can also escape some traffic, stick handle out of a phone booth, as we like to say. But when you've got a guy as rugged and big and a bit of a bull in the middle of the ice to help you free up the puck so that you can use those legs and that speed that you have, it's a great compliment as well. I mean, I think that the lines have really been balanced in terms of being able to have some young, some old. Now Morgan Barron's on that line. So he's kind of applicable again to the Cole Perfetti on the left wing side of that Scheifele and Wheeler line, right? So you've got some youth there. You've got some big bodies. You've also got some skill and some speed. So those two lines are really balanced, and it's really hard to kind of match up against them, whether it be D pairings or going head to head with your best line or your checking line, even if you have home change. And the last change, when you are at home in the opposition, the way they built this, the way it's been kind of rolled out this year and spread out, the balance has been exquisite for the Jets. And I really like the way that they've gotten back to getting Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois back together, because they were so magical last year for that 40-plus goal season that Kyle Connor had, and almost 50. Had he not lost a couple of games to COVID, he might have got to 50 for sure on the heater that he was on. But let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Kyle Connor, even though he started slowly, was still getting opportunities. He leads the team in shots on goal. He had 52 going into the game last night. So it's not like he's not around the net with the puck. He's shooting the puck. They just weren't going for him. He was hitting posts. It was going off like the butt end of the goaltender's stick, stuff like that, right? So I think that Winnipeg will be a hard team to kind of match up against and game plan for when you have the lines that you do. And hey, Morgan Barron's going to really enjoy life on playing on the right wing side. Hey, I'm a left-handed shot. You want to play right wing? No problem. Sure. Oh, with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor, you bet. Yeah, I could play the right wing. Never played it in my life, but I'll play right wing on that line just to have the opportunity. And that's been, I think, the integration that we talk about, how you've had a more veteran team this year that's well prepared and I guess well situated to be able to bring these young guys along and let them produce and not bring them along too fast and not put them in a situation to be successful.
Paulie, we've got to talk about Josh Morrissey. He has been, listen, he's always been a very important player and a top defenseman on the Winnipeg Jets, but he has continued to raise his level of play and now sits in a very elite company. At the top of NHL defenseman scoring and as the leading scorer of this team. And anyone that follows us on social media has given us the opportunity to play some of your incredible calls of OT winners from Josh Morrissey, especially last week. I mean, what have you seen from Josh?
Well, a lot. And I think you have to look at the chronology of Josh Morrissey as a player since being drafted 13th overall in 2013. He came into camp that year and he put on some weight and it slowed him down. He thought that he had to get bigger and stronger to play in the National Hockey League, then realized that was not going to be his game. So he went back to junior and then lost a little bit of weight or a little bit of muscle, got quicker again, then found his way to the Moose for only a year, and then brings up sort of along, maybe a bit of a surprise, or at the time that he made the team, Dustin Byfuglien comes along and says, I want to play with the kid. So what better mentorship to be able to learn the game defensively than to have that protection around you for a couple of seasons and let Buff be Buff. So he learned to play the defensive side of the game, even though he had layers of offense coming out of Major Junior, whether it was Prince Albert or with Kelowna. And then from there, there was that major departure on the blue line that I really believe stung the Winnipeg Jets for a long time. And Ben Sherratt, Dustin Byfuglien, Jacob Trouba, Tyler Myers, they all left. I mean, one fell swoop, they were all gone. And that left sort of the focal point on Josh Morris. He's the number one guy. And that was a lot of pressure. At the same time, he signed a big contract extension, got paid very well. And I think there was a lot of pressure on him, or at least he put pressure on himself to perform that way. He also lost his father 1.5 to 2 years ago. I mean, that's never easy for a guy that's still in his 20s, I'm sure. A guy that was very influential in his defenseman's career all the way through, because from what I understand, Josh's dad ran defenseman clinics in Calgary specifically to teach the position of playing defense. And so now, he's gotten a little bit more tread on the tire with that experience. And now he's comfortable in adding that offensive layer that he's always had. The big part, and you asked me for what I've seen from him, how about the speed? It was the breakaway goal in Dallas in overtime where he took the pass from Wheeler and he was like equidistant at center ice with Jason Robertson. And he just blew by him to walk in all alone. He turned really a one-on-one into a breakaway from center ice in. That's the speed. I mean, he's elite when it comes to skating. And we see that speed on display every once in a while because as a defenseman, he doesn't get up the ice to rush the puck all the time. But get him in that 3-on-3 environment, and you do see that different skill set or another, asset that he has to his game. He's been wonderful this year, and I think it's a testament to when you're an offensive defenseman, a little bit maybe undersized, you can still go out, play physical, take the man, get in on hands, block shots, learn the game from your blue line in for sure, but also then once you're comfortable doing that, start to add the offensive element to your game, and he's done that, and he's one of 3 NHL defensemen right now in the National Hockey League to lead their team in scoring at last check.
Paul Edmonds is the play-by-play voice of the Winnipeg Jets. You can hear all the calls on CJ 680 CJOB. Paulie, you more than anyone have a unique window into the behind-the-scenes nature of the Winnipeg Jets. Tell us about the Bones effect. I mean, what have you seen from Rick Bowness, both on the ice, in front of the media, but also behind the scenes, and how his influence is helping propel this team to make the most of the potential that they didn't realize last season?
Hustler, he might be the best second choice as a head coach in the history of the National Hockey League. I mean, he wasn't the guy that the Jets originally sought. They wanted Barry Trotz. And even in his opening address as the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, he said that. He joked and said, well, if I was Kevin Cheveldayoff, I wanted Barry Trotz first too. But I think what you've got is a guy that's had a lot of experience as a player, an assistant, a head, an associate coach, all the way through. And a testament to Rick Bowness because he's always been a very friendly guy. Serious, down to business, but always approachable and always kind. And I think what he's done is he knew the game from back in the 70s and the 80s, and he's learned the game as it's gone through, as it's changed from a more physical type of game to more skating and skill. And one thing that he's really learned, and he will tell you, is how to communicate with today's player. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything, because it is a unique situation when you're talking to today's athlete, especially in hockey. So he's learned all of these things. He's taken them. He's made the application to them. He's 67 years old. He's allowed the room to breathe, brought in more leadership. He's signed a credo or had the players do that. He's been more welcoming. They've gotten flight jackets. There's just a lot more collectiveness with this team. There's a lot more connectedness as well. And that's all on Rick Bowness. It's his vision. The coach, the head coach, sets out the vision, and everybody kind of rolls from there. not to be, only isolated to one guy. I mean, Scott Arniel's been part of that, and the other two coaches that I mentioned previous as well. But really, it's been the vision and the leadership of Rick Bowness that's helped turn this thing around. And he's been a great acquisition for the Winnipeg Jets. And it's been, to this point, 21 games through, a pretty special year for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think Rick Bowness is really enjoying his second stint as the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, although it was many years and decades between the first and second stint.
Paulie, just on the way out, I got to ask you, you've been around this team for a long time. When was the last time you've seen the Winnipeg Jets have as much fun as they are together as a team right now?
Yeah, it would be a few years. I think probably leading up to that 17-18 season, you saw them trending in the right direction. And then that year was a great year. And I really don't think that anybody was surprised by them getting past Minnesota. And then maybe a little surprised a Game 7 win against Nashville. But the ride was on for sure. That was a fun year, and you saw the players playing for each other and playing for the crest and not, the name bar on the back. And I think that there's some comparisons between that team and this team, a lot of years between them. But there's a long way to go here. But the Winnipeg Jets seem to be on the right track. So it's been a few years, but it's been a lot more fun to be around the team this year than the last couple, COVID included, but for other reasons as well.
Paulie, keep up the great work. Been loving the calls, and hopefully we've got a few more OT bangers from you and great winning goal calls that we can throw out to Winnipeg Jet fans on the social channels. Thanks so much for doing this, and have a great one tomorrow night on OB.
Hustler, my pleasure. Thanks a lot to Remo. And Hustler, I'm going to try to cash in on the Doha double today.
Yes. Well, we're checking out what's going on in these games as we speak right now. And, of course, one more game for me here in Qatar tomorrow, Canada and Morocco. And I cannot wait to get back to the rink. I guess next game I'll be there is next Tuesday. Guess who's back? Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers. Should be a lot of fun. Paulie, all the best, my man. Thanks for doing this, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys. Thanks.
Good stuff. There is Paul Edmonds. All right, we're going to go from Paul with more Jets talk to Murat. Just before we do that, had a few technical difficulties at the beginning of this program, and I didn't get to throw out the why not question of the day. And, this is... I can't even believe I'm able to throw this question out right now to you folks, but hey, I mean, the team has earned it and a lot of individuals have earned it. And we're now talking about a number of Winnipeg Jets that are getting and should be getting legitimate or should be in conversations for maybe some trophies. And as Paul said, there's a ton of road left to go, but hey, this is what we do here on these sports talk programs. We recognize where things are at. Let me ask you this. Which member of the Winnipeg Jets has a better chance of winning a trophy this season? Is it Rick Bowness with the Jack Adams? Is it Josh Norrisy with the Norris Trophy? Is it Cole Perfetti with the Calder Trophy? Or is it Connor Hellebuck with the Vezina? Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Hit us up in the chat. And if you're watching the program after the fact, definitely put it in the comments on YouTube. Of course, the why not question of the day brought to you each and every day by our friends at Not Auto Corp. Winter's here, folks. You might be thinking it is time for a new vehicle or maybe upgrading the one that you have right now. Well, before you do anything, pop on down to Not at Waverly and McGillivray and talk to the Not experts. Check out the amazing vehicles that they have on the lot. But if there is a specific make and model that you've got your sights set on, let the Not experts source it, find it, and get it into you at the best possible price. But listen, many people aren't looking for a new vehicle, but also whether it need work, service, maintenance on it. Of course, Not will take care of all of that for you. But guys, winter's here. You better have those winter tires. And if you don't, Not AutoCorp has winter tire specials and the MPI payment plan. So why not get safe winter tires for you and your family and pay later at Not AutoCorp? You can find out in person at Waverly and McGillivray. Give them a call or check them out online at not.ca. Well, with all the excitement about the Winnipeg Jets right now, we've got those beautiful new retro reverse jerseys in. Might make a great Christmas present. When you're getting ready for your holiday shopping, there's only one place you need to go for the sports fan in your family, and that is Royal Sports. The biggest and best selection anywhere when it comes to Winnipeg Jets gear, Winnipeg Blue Bomber gear, the National Football League, NHL, World Soccer, Team Canada. If you've been seeing any of the videos that I've been doing, totally outfitted by our friends over at Royal Sports. They really do have it all. And listen, if you played hockey, you probably know this already, but they have been the hockey superstore in Winnipeg for over 40 years. With hockey players working in the shop to help you get the best equipment, the best fit for the best performance for players of all levels. And as well, people that maybe don't play hockey but want to get out on the ice, we'll have the River Trail coming up, a great Christmas gift, some really unique new skate options as well. You know, not $1,000 skates that you need to play in the National Hockey League, but great casual ones, perfect for the river. Find out more, Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, guys, you might be thinking, holiday dinners, events, Christmas parties, how's the wardrobe looking? If you need to up the wardrobe game, there's only one place to do that, and that is F Apparel. Now, we always tell you, if you need a suit, it is the place to go for custom suits, starting at just $400. The best fit, the best makes. You got to pop in. Remo and I both did it. A very simple process. Get measured up, pick your style, color, fabrics, and more. And you got a beautiful new custom suit coming in just a few weeks. And hey, there might be some people in the family who could use that as a Christmas gift. F Apparel gift cards, a great gift for the guy in your family that maybe is looking to upgrade the wardrobe as well. Andrew Parks and his staff waiting for you right now at 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online at EPHapparel.com for more or to make an appointment. All right, more Jets talk coming up. We will talk to Alex Limoges of the Manitoba Moose, their Moose leading scorer, a little bit later on in the program. But right now, let's welcome in Murat Atesh. And I missed Murat last week on Wednesday because I was at the first of the three Canada games here in Qatar. We've got Murat right now. How are you, my friend? What's going on?
As I am doing well. I am happy to see you. I am so excited for your trip in Qatar. I'm so, following you cheering on Alphonso Davies' goal was all of us. It was every single. I mean, I'm just happy that you're doing it, man. It's I'm just in a good mood. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, it is great to have you. And listen, I joke that I feel like I'm now a semi-permanent resident of the state of Qatar. We've kind of been here for so long. I am looking forward to getting back. And one of the biggest reasons is because of the way the Winnipeg Jets have been playing right now. But really looking forward to getting back to the stadium one more time tomorrow. We will see a new stadium for the Canada-Morocco game. And then it'll be a long weekend of travel. We'll be back here getting ready for a pretty big game with the Florida Panthers coming in next week. Couple games more before that here on this homestand. But let's get to it right off the bat. Why don't we start off with last night's game, and then we'll talk more big picture about this, where the team is right now. 40 saves for Connor Hellebuyck, although I will say as far as 40 save shutouts go, was probably maybe a more an easier one for Connor compared to some of the nights where he had to be ridiculously out of his mind, standout great. And I mean, Blake Wheeler with a hat trick, being rewarded for a lot of the things that he's doing for this club. It all seems to be coming together, and what a way to start off this homestand against the defending Stanley Cup champs in a huge divisional game, finishing it with a 5-0 victory. What did you see last night?
I mean, I saw a good team handle a really dangerous wave early for just a couple of shifts and then beat the Stanley Cup champions. I mean, just think of that as a statement coming out of summer into the season that we've had. And so I agree with you, Huss, the idea of 40 saves, you kind of look at it and, as far as 40 save Hellebuyck masterpieces go, this was a solid effort, but it wasn't like Winnipeg was buried in its own zone for tons of stretches. It really was, for me, there are a couple of shifts early in the first period where Nathan McKinnon got back-to-back offensive, so Jets defensive zone draws, and was able to keep Winnipeg hemmed in for, 45 seconds or so on one shift, and then the next 20 of the next before Winnipeg was able to clear. And so Winnipeg had defending to do, Hellebuyck had work to do, but they survived it. And the chances that Colorado got, even though they were from not too far away, everybody was in position. If there was a 50-50 puck, it was at least contested. Winnipeg is not an excellent team at box outs and clearing the slot and clearing the crease. That's one of the things that they don't do very well. They didn't do it that great against Colorado last night either. That's why so many shots, so many from close to Hellebuck. But they were there. They were in the fight. They weren't out of position. And that made Colorado's scorer's job really hard. Survive that, and then all of a sudden it's the Blake Wheeler show. And Hypnotize by Biggie is a gem. And I've been thinking about this, like, which Jet picked the best goal song? When you hear that song 3 times in a night, it's a party. It is an absolute party in that building. And Blake Wheeler's goals, set up by highlight reel passes by Cole Perfetti, set up by highlight reel hustle plays by Mark Scheifele. That's a very good look for the Winnipeg Jets. And I know Colorado didn't have Landeskog, they didn't have Nichushkin, among others. Winnipeg didn't have Nikolai Ehlers, among others. So there's a little give and take on both sides. It was a strong effort either way for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think back to, I mean, listen, there's been some nights where they haven't looked good. I mean, the game earlier in Dallas, certainly last week in Minnesota. But, man, the way that they have immediately bounced back with strong performances next week. And, you know, honestly, the lack of consistency that we'd seen in the past of the Winnipeg Jets, have a good game, maybe fall back a little bit. I'm not sure whether it's the new coach, whether it's something that Rick and his staff have been doing, or maybe it's something internal, but they bounce back from a bad performance. They have a strong game. They win and they keep going. And, you know, listen, we've heard so many times about that first game back from a road trip. To start off this trip against arguably the toughest team that they're playing in these 4 games with a performance like that bodes very, very well. And I mean, you can pick out signs game after game of growth amongst the team individually coming together. But man, to do what they did last night, you know, in so many ways, a huge game. And I mean, there's few better teams to test yourself with in the league, but especially in the division. And Murat, I think of the St. Louis game early on, which, you know, was probably the game 5 or 6 of the season, was a real statement game that, you know, we talked about. That's the blueprint. They did it again against Dallas in a huge divisional game a few weeks ago. And then to do that last night, I mean, the way that they've raised their level of play in big games on home ice against teams that they simply have to beat if they want to be a playoff team, is something that I think is getting fans excited, but it's also quite clear exciting the players, and it's something that they are taking and building on game after game as we now get into the second quarter of the season, coming off the best start in franchise history.
I mean, the excitement in the players is the really nice, almost palpable feeling that we get when we go into the room. And one of the phrases that you've heard them repeat, and you know, this comes from people who were vocal last year, this comes from people who weren't as vocal last year, is that the team is starting to learn the lesson that when it plays the right way, it wins. Like, you do the right things, you get paid, you get the scoring chance, you get the defensive stop. It leads to the wins. It leads to these good vibes. And I think that that's a coaching thing. And coaching for me, its impact on the Winnipeg Jets this season, and Rick Bowness and staff all deserve credit, it comes from a couple of different angles. You hear Brendan Dillon talk about how every decision is black and white. The game plan is there. We had a nice one-on-one chat. It went up at The Athletic about a week and a half ago now, where he's sort of breaking it down, saying, you know, on these sorts of plays, we know what we're supposed to do. Face-off plays, set plays, breakouts, there's no question anymore. And everybody is in the right spot. That is an improvement in terms of how the Jets play year over year. And I think that everybody who watched the Jets last year wanted that and believed a new coach, most new coaches would be capable of that. But Hustler, for me, the real impact on the Winnipeg Jets of coaching this year, remember we were all Trotz Watch, you know, there's a whole bunch of names for a little while, but Trotz was the real guy. At that time, I was talking to an NHL coach about the Winnipeg Jets. And basically the question that I put to him was, how is a new coach going to come in and generate buy-in? And I think that's what we all thought Winnipeg needed, a higher sense of accountability, a buy-in. Everybody's pulling on the same rope and responsible to each other. And what he said was, listen, a veteran coach is going to be important here because it's not about generating buy-in in that it's from the coach to the players. It's about creating a situation where the players are going to do that for themselves. And when you go back to what we hear coming out of that Banff trip from the Winnipeg Jets, all of Winnipeg's standards this year were brainstormed and written by the players. When they talk about accountability, when they talk about what it means to be a good teammate, it's not Rick Bowness whose definition of those words is on their board or on their mantra that all of them have signed. It's their own. And that came through conversations. And, it's my understanding that a lot of folks were heard very well in those conversations. And not even guys who were necessarily always feeling like they were heard in years previous. I think that a huge part of Winnipeg's leadership coming from coaching has been finding a way to facilitate Winnipeg's players to be their own standard bearer. And I think that's part of why they respond so well after horrible nights like Minnesota, is that they're the ones responsible to each other. And they've also seen what playing well can do for them. And I think that bounce back that you're talking about is a real key story for this season.
This team, we've said, hey, everyone needs to be pulling on the same rope, if you will, and buying in and all of that. I'm not sure there's a better example of that than the season that Mark Scheifele's having right now. And it's funny, I was looking at the point totals, and Scheifele's like kind of fifth in scoring. Obviously, he had all those goals at the start. Kyle Connor was a little bit of snake bit, so probably there's a few assists that maybe didn't get on the board. But it was interesting to hear you describe Mark Scheifele playing last night against Nate McKinnon and doing some of the little things that maybe weren't there last year. I just was wondering if you wanted to expand on what you've seen through this first quarter of the season and the growth of Mark Scheifele and how he is really doing what needs to be done in some of the areas that don't show up on the score sheet that's helping his team win hockey games.
Yeah, and I can start that with Winnipeg's first game against Colorado that looked a lot more chaotic than this win did. And there were times against Colorado early in the season when Winnipeg was buried in its own zone for a while. And we sort of were thinking about last season, oh my goodness, this is happening all over again, just for that very small sample of that game. And then you go back and you look at the extended shift, and on one play where I think it's Arturi Lehkonen who scored against Winnipeg, and you look at all of the chances Winnipeg had to get the puck out and didn't. In my mind, there were 3 on this one particular play where Colorado scored. 2 of them, to my mind, belonged to Kyle Connor. 1 of them belonged to Josh Morrissey, a giveaway. And all of it resulted in a lot more zone time in Winnipeg's end in defending. And if you watch those, 90 seconds or so, I can't remember the number on that, and you just watch Mark Scheifele, every single time Winnipeg gives the puck away, he does not curl. He does not look towards the offensive zone. He's not following Kyle Connor across the blue line and looking for that offense before the puck is safe. Every time that a turnover happens or an issue happens, he digs in on both of his skates and gets back towards the play and then is on his man. And as the shift gets longer, that's getting more and more difficult to do. He's getting so fatigued, but he keeps doing it. And I thought that look, Winnipeg got scored against, and honestly, you're not going to show that as a highlight reel for anybody. There's so many giveaways. But if you watch him, it was a level of effort and commitment that I thought was a good sign. And then we talk about 200-foot players, and that's kind of, a cliche. It's the whole rink, et cetera, et cetera. But you actually can almost watch from end boards to end boards, the effort level of Mark Scheifele in certain spots. He's putting his body, in I don't want to say in harm's way, but he's laying the body to win pucks at both ends. You hear defensemen talk about what it's been like to break the puck out this year. I've talked to Brendan Dillon about it. I've talked to Dylan DeMello about it one-on-one. Josh Morrissey has said it. Nate Schmidt has said it. The forwards are coming back, and Winnipeg's defensemen have options. So last week against Carolina, when Carolina, the Hurricanes are one of the world's, and I guess that's true, one of the league's best forechecking teams in terms of dumping the puck, getting it back, staying heavy, cycling. Carolina's as good as it gets in the NHL. But you remember that game up until the goalie pulled situation where Carolina kept scoring, Winnipeg was getting the puck out of its zone clean. And that's because coaching, first of all, led to reads of the Carolina Hurricanes breakout. But every time a defenseman went back to get the puck, Winnipeg's forwards were lower support than I can remember them ever being, whether that's close to the puck carrier on the strong side, whether that's opposite the puck carrier on the other side of the net on the weak side. You had Mark Scheifele playing help defense below the goal line. And I thought that little things like that are testaments to how hard this guy is working to make sure that everything goes well as possible. He's not perfect. He's just a player, as well as possible for everybody on the ice. And, I've really enjoyed Mark Scheifele's season so far.
Well, and it's a perfect segue into this new look line. Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele back together kind of instantly clicked, but Cole Perfetti is a huge, huge part of that. It's been really interesting from my perspective to watch him this year. I mean, we've seen the glimpses of the supernatural hockey sense that he has, the things that he can do without that elite level of speed that often is, a deciding factor in making players, as effective as he's able to be. But man, and a few real tough nights against some of the physical grind of teams that have kind of targeted him and said, "Hey kid, welcome to the league. We're going to make you pay." What have you seen from Cole through this first 21, and your thoughts on that line after being put together a couple games ago with some pretty incredible early results?
Yeah, for me, Cole Perfetti's season, it's an oversimplification, but I think for the first few games, there was a ton of energy. His line with Wheeler and Dubois, they were creating a lot of chances that they weren't necessarily scoring all of the time. I thought there was some chemistry figuring out who's shooting when, who's taking the puck to the net when, but they were all over it for a little while. I don't think they got paid. I don't think they got pointed out for that, so to speak, early on as much as they could have done. But then in that middle stretch of games, for me, it was an inconsistency from Cole Perfetti. It was, and I think this is normal for a 20-year-old NHL hockey player in this league in his first full season. But there were times where the hockey sense shone through, the plays were made, there was a lot of quick thinking and quick plays made, and it looked so much like his skill set. And there are times when the play died on a stick a little bit, and when plays that he tried to make weren't necessarily there for him either. And I think that was normal. You're not going to bury the guy for that. But against Minnesota, it was interesting to me because he wasn't the only player who made giveaways that led to scoring chances against Winnipeg. Actually, Blake Wheeler made one that was really quite not to anybody's liking, and Minnesota scored. He wasn't the only one, Cole Perfetti, that took penalties he wouldn't like. There were early ones from other players, too, veteran players. And Perfetti was benched for the third period. And I thought to myself, I mean, kind of why him? But then since that game, and Rick Bowness clearly knows what he's doing, because the very first shift of Winnipeg's game in Dallas, he's a scoring chance machine. He scores a beautiful goal, and that doesn't stop throughout the rest of that game. And with Scheifele and with Blake Wheeler, that has persisted, and they seem to be thinking the game the same way. And you're seeing the best version of Cole Perfetti on an extremely high percentage of his shifts. The one thing that I also want to say about Perfetti on this particular line is I think that, we're all going to remember that backhand pass to Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler smiling in disbelief on the highlight reel, like, oh my goodness, how did you do that? But early in that play, Winnipeg breaking the puck out of its zone, Cole Perfetti has the puck at Winnipeg's blue line. He sees Mark Scheifele with a little bit more speed, and he outlets to Scheifele up the left wing boards. And I think that that's a smart recognition of who's going to get this puck through the neutral zone better. Perfetti cuts into his lane. This is not the right goal. Different play. Cole Perfetti cuts into his lane, gets a pass through a defender's skates from Scheifele, is able to make the play after that. And there's a sense of people on that line know who is capable of doing what, when, and that level of IQ where they're reading off of each other. And you have Blake Wheeler raving about the guy in the post game, saying, hey, he saw what Scheif saw and what I saw. And this is the moment when I think that he looked up and he saw this play was going to happen. And then he dragged the puck on his backhand. It was perfectly timed. And he's just kind of going off on how good of a play that was. I mean, I like that. And I think Perfetti's a huge part of that line's success last night.
Well, he has been. And of course, the other part of that, it's allowed Kyle Connor to get back riding with Pierre-Luc Dubois, who I'm not going to say has been quiet so far this season, but he kind of quietly is, right up there near the top of the scoring leaders for the Winnipeg Jets, and it's just about a point a game. And now with Morgan Barron popping back in, adding that line, it was funny. We began talking early on about why Perfetti, and Paul Edmonds brought this up a little earlier, playing with some bigger players on that line. Well, Kyle Connor, who is a guy that, certainly is not going to be blowing dudes up, having that muscle, having that strength, and a guy that always takes the puck to the net like Dubois, history has proven it's a pretty darn good combination. And when you've got both of those lines going, this team, never mind the improvements in the bottom six, can be can be a real handful for other teams for a full 60 minutes right now. And I think we're seeing that. Just thoughts on Dubois and the Dubois-Connor reuniting.
I mean, I think that it's the right play for the Winnipeg Jets. The two of those players, and this is no disrespect to Morgan Barron or Jansen Harkins or Evgeny Svechnikov or any of the players that have gone on and had success on that line, but the bread and butter of their success is Pierre-Luc Dubois' ability to play in traffic, to play fast and powerful, and then to draw defenders to him, and then Kyle Connor's ability to cut into space, to become a dangerous outlet for a guy that's as big and as strong and has the vision that Dubois has. And that, to me, is about those two players. And then alternatively, I mean, there's so many plays you can remember from last season where Kyle Connor's speed is drawing heat from defensemen. So he's not getting just the one guy, he's getting two guys on him. Space opens up for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I think that combination is something that Winnipeg can continue to lean on. I really like how those two players play off of each other. The third guy, I mean, just go to good spots, win as many battles as you can, get the puck into those guys' hands as much as you can, and as far as I'm concerned. And whether that's Morgan Barron or whomever, even if Sam Gagner comes back in the line, I'm not sure what the next stretch of games looks like lines-wise, but those two guys should stick together. And I want to throw like a cynical counter argument about, hey, you needed to put Perfetti with Dubois and Wheeler specifically because of size, so you could go Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers up top. In that particular line arrangement, the way that I'm thinking of, if let's say you go Connor, Dubois together right off the hop, and you know that Rick Bowness is establishing Mark Scheifele as the top center, then you've either got to give Cole Perfetti, the rookie, top line minutes right off the hop, and he hasn't quite proven that, or you've got to elevate Blake Wheeler to the first line. And in a situation where you're removing the captaincy and giving him a more manageable, I want to say, workload on and off the ice, I think it would have been strange to look at line combinations on day one that was, Ehlers, Scheifele, Wheeler, or something to that effect up top. It would have been a little bit as if nothing had changed. And I don't know that that's what the coaches were thinking. I just want to provide, just a little bit of cynicism for the cynics out there if they want anything else to cotton on to.
No, I think it's a great point. I said it to Remo earlier on. And I mean, listen, I'm not sure what the coaches are thinking, but I mean, we hear it from the fans each and every day. There's a lot of people that didn't even want Wheeler on the third line, for crying out loud. They, had sort of said, oh, he's done going forward. And I mean, that was, to be honest, foolish. I mean, is he still, the 91-point beast of a power forward that he was in 2016, 2017 into 2018? No, but can he still help you win hockey games and do a lot of things well? Absolutely. And, hopefully we'll have this conversation sooner as opposed to later, depending on the recovery from surgery of Nikolai Ehlers. But it really is interesting to think about the options that the Winnipeg Jets have when Ehlers comes back into the lineup. And, for a team that has put up the record and has won the games and has played the way that they have so far this season, I mean, an addition like that is, massive. I mean, you can't get a player like that on the trade market without having a huge exodus from your club or from your future right now. So, I mean, everything that Rick Bowness has done is seemingly leading to, well, an incredible first quarter of the season and looking to build on that throughout this homestand as we get into the holidays. I want to pivot to the blue line. And obviously, we got to talk about Josh Morrissey and the season he's having right now. But I wanted to start off by talking about Dylan DeMello. Dylan DeMello missed a couple of games. He's back in since it. He's had a couple points. And maybe the one play last night, which was maybe the most dangerous on Connor Hellebuyck to prevent him from getting a shutout, was a play at the side of the net where the puck had come out. Hellebuyck was sort of committed to the left side. And there's Dylan DeMello just neutralizing Nathan McKinnon, of all people, in front of an open net. He does things very quietly, but I don't know. I mean, I'm noticing it more and more. He plays as well as, really being a guy that is starting to generate opportunities offensively through some of the things that he can do, creating transition in the game. Thoughts on DeMello's season so far this year, and in particular, the boost he's given to the blue line since he returned?
I mean, the idea of Dylan DeMello and Josh Morrissey as a partnership, and then it just gives depth and a different dynamic to the rest of the lineup. We've seen DeMello play with Morrissey against the league's best a whole bunch of times and do really well. And I think that that's a really good sign for the Winnipeg Jets. The desperation in DeMello's game last night against McKinnon on the play that you just mentioned, another really great sign, because he's a guy coming off of a bit of an injury too. In terms of sacrificing his body to make plays, there was that. There was one of the very first shifts of the game where Nathan McKinnon was bursting up the left wing. DeMello was interfered with in the neutral zone, but he saw that McKinnon had a straight shot lane into Winnipeg zone uncontested. So he dove past the guy that was interfering with him, got a stick on McKinnon's entry attempt, stopped it right there. And I'm like, this is a guy coming off of injury, diving essentially headfirst to stop a play in the neutral zone on Nathan McKinnon going as fast as he was. That was a real nice statement for me. I thought that was a phenomenal play, all effort, all hustle. I got to say, though, Huss, first several games of the season, for me, the Dylan DeMello bread and butter is that 5 to 10 foot breakout pass that puts his teammate who's receiving that pass in a good spot to move the puck up ice. It's not just dumping it to a guy because he's under pressure. DeMello's biggest strength for me is he makes the read. He knows where the forecheckers are. He goes to the right guy that has time and space, or even just a little more time and space than DeMello did when he started the play. For me, that wasn't necessarily there as much early on in the season. I didn't think that he was having that impact. It's been the more recent stretch of games, especially since his injury, where I think that's back for him. I think that he's had that impact. And he's always been a guy, because he breaks, I mean, he's not the one crossing the blue line necessarily, but he makes that first pass so well. He's been that sort of guy when you hear coaches talk about, well, he doesn't get points, but it's, he made the third pass or the fourth pass in that sequence, or to 3 passes ago, 4 passes ago, he'd get the third or fourth assist. He was that kind of player. And a lot of the analytics models clocked him as an offensive player because the Jets would get chances with him on the ice, even though he wasn't the one necessarily at the business end of those chances. He'd done something earlier on in the play. And I think that's the DeMello that Winnipeg wants and needs and has gotten for the last few games. Keep doing that with Josh Morrissey, set him free to go be Josh Morrissey, and there's some real nice synergy building there.
Well, and let's move on to Mo, because I mean, I don't want to say it's a revelation, because we know how important he's been to the Winnipeg Jets, and we know the heavy lifting that he's done, the situation that he's been in. He's been clearly the guy that has been leaned on the most by the coaching staff in previous years, as well as this year, to get it done. But I mean, my God, Murat, I mean, the uptick in his offensive production, the goals that he's scoring right now, the OT winners that he's putting together, is, I mean, honestly, a revelation, I think, in a lot of ways. And, I know you did that piece on him last year on losing his father and some of the challenges that he had been going through off the ice. But the way that he has blossomed into truly an elite top defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets, the guy that we had said the Winnipeg Jets didn't have and they needed, might be the single, if we're looking at a player that outside of the net and Connor Hellebuck, who I'll always maintain is the best player on this team and the foundation for Winnipeg Jets success, right behind it seems to be Josh Morrissey. And it's amazing that we're talking about Josh leading the team in scoring right now, being up there with Erik Karlsson and Adam Fox in the National Hockey League, and being such a big part of the success that the Winnipeg Jets is having right now. And not even playing as many minutes as a couple of those players. I think he's at about 23 per game. Many of those players are around 25. But I mean, the season that Morrissey's having has been incredible so far. And, if he can keep this going, we will be talking about a Josh Morrissey pitch at the end of the season. And frankly, he'll deserve it. Yeah, if he keeps it up. And I know at 21 games played, this has been this guy should be in your top 10 on that ballot. Like, I don't know that everyone would choose him on the podium, but he should absolutely be in the conversation. I mean, you do that for 82 and all of a sudden, you creep a little bit further up that list, because there are hot and cold streaks for a lot of these guys. We can sort of see how the early favorites change in past years as well as years go on.
For me, I mean, you mentioned the piece that I wrote and what Josh Morrissey was going through, and I kind of want to start it there. My thoughts on him, and we've talked about the personal situation, and I don't think any of us will ever know exactly what Morrissey's heart was going through in that time. That's his, but we do know that it was a tough time, and we've talked about that quite a bit. The other corollary of that is, there were workouts that he completely changed to skate in that rink away from everybody heading into I guess that was the 2021 season, or the 2020/21 season that was played only in 21. But in that fall, he was working out essentially at an outdoor sheet his buddy had set up, and staying away from other people who might get him sick, so that, in a vaccine world of COVID at that time, the last thing Josh Morrissey wanted to do was bring an illness into his father's life, because he was trying to spend time with him. And that impacts how he's able to prepare. Coming out of Winnipeg's playoff loss against Montreal when the Jets were swept, Josh Morrissey's dad, Tom, dies later that summer. And, Morrissey in that piece talks about the encouragement, the freedom, all of those things that he got from his dad at that time. Well, he also got, an opportunity to train when, a little bit closer to 100% that summer. And he focused on explosiveness. He actually changed the way that he worked out, not trying to bulk up or whatever. I'm not sure that was his focus in previous seasons, but speed, agility, explosiveness. We saw that last year. Last year was the start of what's happening this year. This summer was the doubling down, and this is the next level. So we talked about it last night with the players, and we're asking so many Morrissey questions. Blake Wheeler and I see eye to eye on this particular thing. He says, listen, this is something that started last year. This isn't the Josh Morrissey show brand new. We saw him show his elite ability for longer stretches last year, and we're seeing it kind of all the time right now. And that's what I see. How he got so much faster and all of those things I cannot begin to explain. That's to his credit. But I think that you can sort of see the storyline support that this is another escalation in an ongoing process of Josh Morrissey being a great defenseman.
Murat of The Athletic with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, the Jets going at it next up against the Columbus Blue Jackets. When are we going to see Big Save Dave next? And I guess part of that, we all know how miserable his season started with that ugly first period in Vegas. And I know we haven't seen much of him lately because it has been the Connor Hellebuck show. But just thoughts on Riddick when he gets back in, and how he's sort of bounced back, and how the teams in a lot of ways rallied behind him after a really tough way to start his time in Winnipeg.
I mean, yeah, he's such an interesting guy. I mean, from his very first Zoom, he was making jokes and saying, hey, I didn't miss Canadian media. And he's like kind of goofing around. And there's interviews that we do where there's a scrum on one side of the Jets dressing room, and you're like consistently hearing David Riddick, chatter and chirping and humor in the background, because he's such a vocal guy. I mean, he's a goalie among goalies, I think, in that way. And it's been fun to sort of see that element get added to the Jets room. And credit to him for stabilizing his game. I know that some of those goals against early in certain moments and things like that wouldn't have been his favorite, but he's played well overall, and he will get back into the net. And I wonder when. I mean, the Winnipeg Jets' next back-to-back isn't until about a week from now, December 8th and 9th in St. Louis and Chicago. So he'll definitely get one of those games. But Columbus this Friday, Anaheim Sunday, and then Florida on Tuesday. I mean, I wonder if we just keep seeing the Connor Hellebuck show as much workload as that may seem to be. He seems to be absolutely equal to it. And you have his teammates saying this is as good as he's ever played. And you have Hellebuck kind of agreeing with it. And you have his numbers supporting it as well. So, I mean, it may just be that back-to-back unless they, really want to give Helly a rest and play Riddick on Sunday, perhaps against Anaheim.
Well, certainly will be interesting to see. But right now, I mean, we're talking about the Rick Bowness effect, Wheeler hat trick. Josh Morrissey at the top of the scoring leaders for the Jets. Pretty fun time to be a Winnipeg Jet fan. And we'll see what happens in the rest of this homestand. And, of course, a pretty interesting game next Tuesday when the Florida Panthers come to town, along with former Winnipeg Jet coach Paul Maurice. Hey, just quickly on the way out, what do you think about Canada tomorrow against Morocco? I know we won't be moving on to the next round, but still lots to play for, building as the going into 2026. And any other World Cup thoughts? I know you've been paying attention to the tourney.
Yeah, for me, Canada, I just want them to get a result. Just as a fan of Team Canada, any context, any capacity, Hockey Canada is kind of on my list right now, but we get it, right? Like, we cheer. And you just really desperately want for these young superstars, the Alphonso Davies and, the next wave, to have that to point back to. It would be a lovely, win, ideally, at least a draw against Morocco. The tough thing is that Morocco is such a quality defensive team. I mean, there are things that they do so well. If you're new to this world, there's absolutely no guarantee that Canada is able to pull it off against Morocco. And one of the things that I've had concerns with Canada, is they've got so much energy, they have so much athleticism, they have so much pace, but mid-match when teams change shape against them, Winnipeg, Canada has been so open to the counter. And you saw Belgium gaining confidence before they scored their first goal. You saw Croatia, from early on being able to counter. And was it Kramaric who scored an offside goal as well? It wasn't just the goals that they scored. And for me, there might be a little bit of Canada looking dangerous, Morocco parking the bus, and there's no guarantee it goes well. Otherwise, I don't know what's happening in the Argentina game right now, but I got to see how Messi is hanging in there. And that's a team that I pull for a lot.
Well, it's going to be good news, I think, if you're pulling for Messi in Argentina right now. I'll let you go watch the final 20 of those matches. Murat, thanks so much for doing this, and look forward to seeing you back in the Peg next week when I return from our couple of weeks here in Qatar.
Love it. Thanks for having me, Huss.
Be well. There it is, Murat Atesh at WPG Murat. And make sure you're reading all of his wonderful content over at The Athletic. Well, as we heard right off the top of the program, talking with Michael Remis, Willie J's back, Adam Bighill's back, and from all reports, sounds like the coach is back too. Bombers looking ahead to an unfinished business season next year with their guy back. And as I said, we're just counting down the days to get back to IG Field and seeing what the team will be able to do in 2023. And, of course, getting back together with fans. Nothing was more fun this year than starting the games off at the Princess Auto Tailgate Zone. Princess Auto, wonderful sponsors of the Bombers, not to mention our top curlers in Manitoba and really across the country. And, of course, Princess Auto is the spot where you'll find the best assortment of deals on unique equipment and tools around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list is at Princess Auto. You can shop there just in time for the holidays for the fix-it guy or the project guy in your family. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and check out everything they got going on 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Hey, our friends at Culling and Water have been the water experts in town for over 65 years with everything you and your family need to keep you hydrated and healthy 24/7, 365. Of course, water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, drinking systems, whole home systems as well, not to mention commercial water products and solutions. Pop down and see the experts at Culligan down at 1200 Sargent Avenue. You can give them a call at 694-5180 or check out everything they can do for you and your family online at drinkculligan.com. And hey, December's here, folks. There'll be some entertaining. There'll be some revelry. And if you are a whiskey drinker, you got to make it the best. Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, available down at Manitoba Liquor Marts. Makes a great gift as well for the whiskey drinker in your circle. All sorts of amazing products from under the Canadian Club umbrella waiting for you at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts. And don't forget about the CC and Ginger. I mean, it's not just for the summer, having it at the Bomber games and whatnot. CC and Ginger available, and 6-packs and cans at your local beer store as well. And hey, it's been a great run. The World Cup really is just getting going. Unfortunately, Canada will be finishing up their run at the World Cup tomorrow against Morocco. Remo will be handling the program tomorrow, and I'll be back on Friday before returning on the weekend. But if you're looking forward to maybe getting out to watch one final game with some of your friends, no better place to do that than at Boston Pizza. They've got great specials, special brunch menu as well at the St. Vital, the Kenaston BP, and some great prizes as well to be given, including Canada jerseys, including stars like Alphonso Davies at all the BPs. So get on out there tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Winnipeg time at Boston Pizza. And then we'll be back, of course, watching Thursday night football tomorrow night, Patriots and Bills. And you can still have time to enter to win that great NFL trip for New Year's weekend down to Vegas to see the Raiders take on the San Francisco 49ers, who are bulldozing teams right now. I believe they're over 90 straight minutes of shutout football right now. Watch the World Cup at Boston Pizza. And, of course, you can always order 24/7, 365 at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's switch from the Jets over to the Moose right now. Early game tomorrow, the schools game, 11 a.m. start, and then the Manitoba Maid game coming up on Saturday afternoon. And what a pleasure it is to welcome in the leading scorer, the Manitoba Moose, Alex Limoges, to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Alex, what's going on?
Just getting ready for tomorrow, but thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the program, and congratulations on the great start to the season. I mean, we'll talk about the team overall, 9-5-3, I think, right now. A little bit up and down over the course of the last few weeks, but still a very good start and a really, really good team. But things have really been clicking for you. I mean, how's it been so far, and what would you attribute the success so far earlier in the year?
It's been great. I think we got a good team in the locker room, and the success so far has been everybody's been having fun, competing and playing and really battling. So for a spot, we got a lot of players that can play top minutes. So I think that competitive advantage within the team is helping us come together and beat teams.
Well, this was already a team that, had a lot of talent on it coming from last season into this year. And you mentioned the level of competition with a couple first-round picks and Brad Lambert and Chaz Lucius, who have bright futures with the organization coming in. What's it been like? How different has it been this year with that level of competition, knowing that, man, you really need to be on top of your game to make sure that Mark Morrison knows he's a guy that wants to throw you over the boards?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's fun for me as an undrafted player to come in and develop relationships with these high-end players and draft picks and, future of organizations. So it's been a lot of fun getting to know them, but also, I want to try to learn from some of their skills. They're special players and they have a lot of room to grow. And so hopefully I can help them as much as they're helping me.
You know what? Let's talk a little bit more about you and your path. It's always interesting when, obviously we know some of the players that are on the Moose from following them as draft picks. You had a very different path. Take us back even before you got to Penn State, growing up. I mean, where you're from, how you got to that, and the amazing college career that you had as the all-time leading scorer for the Penn State Nittany Lions hockey program.
It's definitely been a journey. Been a pretty fun one. I grew up in Virginia. Played hockey. The closest rink was an hour away, and so not a lot of hockey in Virginia at that time.
First of all, how did you even get into that? I mean, that does sound like, I'm not sure I've ever even heard of another hockey player, certainly at the pro level, from Virginia. And you talk about the challenges just to get to the rink. I mean, how did that all come about?
Yeah, well, there's only a handful of Virginia players that are playing at this level or higher. So that's fun to be one of them, and it's a pretty close group. But my dad grew up playing hockey. He's from Montreal, and I've always said it's been in the blood. So he and my mom were very kind to donate a lot of their time driving me to and from the rink when I was younger. So now I owe so much of where I am and my future to the sacrifices they made. So I can't thank them enough, but I definitely have been enjoying every step of the way.
What was minor hockey like in Virginia? And I know Remis is mentioning Eric Weinrich, who we remember most games played for an NHL player from Virginia, apparently. But the, like all those long trips, I mean, and the quality of hockey, I mean, that's not, I mean, it's not like you're growing up in Montreal or in Winnipeg where there's a ton of competition. I mean, how did you get and at what point did you realize, like, man, I think I've got a future at this. Maybe I could end up at an NCAA program?
Yeah. Well, I think Virginia, it's always been a smaller hockey market, but the Caps recently have won, which now going back home in the summers, I see a lot has changed. So that's fun that hockey is growing there. But growing up, yeah, it was there was one AAA team, and that was an hour and a half away, and kind of everybody that played there was the guys who wanted to further their career in a more competitive aspect. But after my freshman year of high school, I decided to move up to Connecticut and go to boarding school. And then since I was there and competing with more skilled players, then I think, I was kind of playing well, and I was like, all right, I think I can take this to the next level even further. And then USHL and college was always a goal for me. So it was fun that it worked out pretty, not, of course, nothing goes planned, but pretty smoothly for me up till that point.
Tell us about your time at Penn State. As I mentioned, you're the all-time leading scorer there, and we always think about, as a real football school. What was the hockey program like, and the experience, and how that prepared you for a transition into making a run at being a pro?
Yeah, I loved every second when I was at Penn State. I can't talk highly enough about it, but it was obviously another step up, and I had some growing pains, and it took me about half a season to kind of hit my stride. And of course, adding school on top of that, it's a real grind. But the program won the Big Ten tournament right before I got there and made their first ever NCAA berth. So I was walking into a team that kind of defied a lot of odds and surprised a lot of people. So I think my whole viewpoint when I was there was, let's make history. So and so it was cool. I was a part of a lot of great teams and made a lot of unbelievable friendships. And now it's, hopefully it's a school that a lot of higher end players, young players want to be a part of and want to eventually win a national championship there. So I think they got a lot of, a big future at Penn State, but cool spot.
Well, you had incredible success there, and of course that prepared you for a transition to the pros. I mean, tell us about the journey once you became a pro that has now ended up with you being the leading scorer here with the Moose.
Right. Well, I'm very competitive on the ice, and I hold pretty high standards for myself. So, of course, when the time came to leave college, it was right in the middle of COVID and everything, and things were not as open as they maybe normally would be. Free agents weren't signing as easily as the past. So I started off in San Diego, and I was very lucky that they gave me a shot there, and nothing to lose. I walked in and just tried to prove myself and compete as hard as I could, and had some success there. And then the Jets were there and offered me an NHL contract, and something I could never turn down. It's been on my dream journey. So now playing with the Moose, I want to take advantage of every chance I get.
How are you enjoying the Peg and being a member of the Moose and playing for Mark Morrison?
I'm loving it. It's a great time. We I've heard coming in here how close the team was, and there's nothing like playing hockey in Canada. I grew up rooting and watching a lot of Canadian teams, and now that I'm here playing for it, the fans are unbelievable. So I've had a blast. It's a lot of fun so far.
And, the Moose seems like a really, really fun team. We got to know a number of the guys that are your teammates last year, including your line mate, Jeff Murat, who was a fast favorite here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And you're also playing with Kevin Stenlund, who was an offseason acquisition. Fill us in on the line, how you're clicking with those guys, and obviously the success you're having with those players.
Yeah, definitely the success. But no, it's been a lot of fun ever since we came together. I feel like we've been seeing each other out there, and it's a lot of fun playing with those two. They're, both smart players and win battles, and I feel like we're all looking for each other. So it's been fun being a part of that line and trying to elevate our game with every game that comes. So I think we know where we do well, and I think that's kind of where we try to keep it at, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. A big weekend coming up. Well, I guess it kind of starts tomorrow. I mean, you guys are used to a lot of afternoon games, but I mean, 11 a.m. start. What's the game day going to be like for you and the fellas tomorrow?
I still need to figure out the timing on that, but it might even be too early to cook myself breakfast. So I might be making a peanut butter and jelly and heading to the rink. But yeah, I think I'm going to probably wake up at 7, leave my apartment at 8, and then game day once I get to the rink. So definitely something that I've never done before, but hopefully it gives us a little home ice advantage.
Well, Alex, listen, this has been a lot of fun having you on the program, and it's been a lot of fun watching this team so far this year, folks. If you haven't gotten out, you might be working tomorrow, or if you're listening to the podcast later on, it might not be in the cards, but the Manitoba Maid game Saturday afternoon, great opportunity to get out and see the team continue to push up in the Western Conference standings, and players like yourself make a mark in the American Hockey League, hopefully on the path to the National Hockey League. Alex, this has been a lot of fun. Let's do this again later on this season, and continued success to you and your teammates.
All right. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you. Anytime.
Thanks so much. There's Alex Limoges of the Manitoba Moose, leading scorer on the squad right now. And again, hey, tomorrow might be a great day to blow off work, watch Canada in the World Cup at 9, and then head on down to the rink. 11 a.m. puck drop for the schools game. Should be bedlam in there with lots of groups of young Moose fans going out to get a chance to see the team with their classmates. And then, as we mentioned, the Manitoba Maid game coming up on the weekend. And we do have some tickets, and maybe Remo, when he's holding it down tomorrow, will give you a chance to win some of those on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hey, do want to think we got to get Remis back in. We got to get to Coolbet Lines. And yes, I know there's probably some of you that wanted to hear. Of course, it's the return of Paul Maurice next week. Things aren't going very well for the Panthers right now, and they had the reunion game in Calgary and Matthew Tkachuk's return. We'll talk about that for a minute. But just before we do that, got to thank the Nick and Nicky DQ for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. 4 locations in Winnipeg and Southern Manitoba: DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. And I will tell you, it is, I know it's kind of chilly in the Peg right now. It is certainly the opposite of that here in Qatar. And I did pop down with Jake, and we had, it wasn't quite the Nick and Nicky DQ, but we did have a Qatari DQ blizzard today. And hey, wherever you are on planet Earth, DQ, always the best ice cream treats. Pick one up today at your local Nick and Nicky DQ. And don't forget, the holidays are just around the corner. Nothing better to add to the spread than a DQ ice cream cake. You can hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. Custom make it for you, and a quick and easy pickup at any of the 4 Nick and Nicky DQs. And I know I've heard all sorts of comments, and I've gotten them in about the beer situation here in Qatar. It's been a nice little break, to be honest with you. I had a couple of opportunities to have a few at a couple of events and at the Canada games, but I am honestly very looking forward to cracking a 1919 on the weekend when I get back from the 2 weeks here at the World Cup. With the holidays just around the corner, when you're entertaining, if the future for you calls for beers, make it Winnipeg's finest local beer, Little Brown Jug. All sorts of great holiday options as well, and all sorts of great options with beers, including the Winter Good Times Variety Pack with 4 different Little Brown Jug options. You can grab that at the beautiful tap room and brewery, a great place to gather with friends around the holidays, maybe for a couple cold ones. And of course, you can pick up Little Brown Jug at your favorite local beer store as well if you can't get downtown. And if you're out meeting friends at fine bars and restaurants, make sure you go for Winnipeg's favorite, the 1919. All right, let's get Remis back in here. And Remo, before we get to the Coolbet Lines, little update right now. Things not looking good for our friends, the Poles. And I know you're not really that tuned into the world of international soccer, but I did have a wild moment yesterday or the day before. Was just hanging out. Usually go for a swim in the morning and, out at the pool. And I was just sitting around there reading some stuff on my iPad. And I looked over and it was obvious that some of the Polish players were there. And it took me a minute. Robert Lewandowski, the Barcelona striker, star player for Poland, was there. Like literally about 10 feet away from me, normal guy just having it out. But unfortunately it looks, I'm not sure whether they're going to get through depending on what this result is and what's happening in the Mexico game right now. But there's going to be a good team going home from this group. And of course, Canada's finishing up their run tomorrow at the World Cup. But beyond the World Cup, there's lots going on around the National Hockey League. Yesterday was an absolutely bananas night. A 9-8 game, shades of October 2011 between the Jets and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Kraken beat the Kings 9-8 in overtime. But of course, it was also Matthew Tkachuk's return to Calgary. He actually did get a pretty nice ovation from Calgary fans, which surprised me. But the Calgary fans all went home happy because the Florida Panthers took another one on the chin, getting thumped last night in Southern Alberta.
Yeah. Well, first of all, great talk with Alex Limoges. We do have Moose tickets. There's a contest running on our website, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest, or just go to winnipegsportstalk.com, click at the top. But I was watching all the games. First of all, that 9-8 game was crazy. I was watching it as someone who had...
you have an invisible hat on?
Yeah, I got an invisible hat.
Looks ridiculous.
It's pretty sweet, eh? Invisible hat. But first of all, the Kings waived Cal Peterson after that, and they signed him to like a 3-year, $5 million or 3-year, $15 million contract.
Yeah, I think he's making $5 a year.
Yeah, so they waived him today after that. So that game was
he's had a rough season, but wow.
Every shot was going in. Greg Wyshynski tweeting that from the waiver report. And I did, it was funny. So Matthew Tkachuk comes, they do the big introduction. Hey, welcome back, Matthew Tkachuk. And they cheer him. But then during the game, he's on the opposition now, and they gave it to him. They booed him. And Huberdeau, I knew he was going to get on the score sheet. He didn't score. He definitely got a point there in Calgary. Gave the Panthers their third loss in the row. I mean, it was a really tough situation. Huss back-to-back. Had a tough game against Edmonton on Monday. Got in real late. I mean, they were just up against it going in. So a tough go here for Florida. And we're going to be seeing them next Tuesday.
Now listen, I've as much as I, like many people, have been paying close attention to the Panthers this season and how things would go with Paul Maurice. I've done everything in my power not to just go down this road because, listen, it's great that the Winnipeg Jets are doing well, and who cares about Florida? It's a team in another division, another conference. But there are a lot of people paying close attention to what it is, and it is somewhat interesting that the Panthers are struggling right now. They lost the first 2 games on this road trip. They're going to be playing in Vancouver and Seattle, and then coming here to Winnipeg for that final game. And I think I said on the show before, and this is just my own personal opinion, but I mean, when we were cranking out and splitting season tickets, that was the game that I wanted to make sure I was there for. And I've said, certainly to friends, I probably said this on the air before, if there's one game I wanted the Jets to win all season long, it's December 6th against the Florida Panthers. And it's not that I have, ill will over Paul Maurice, but I mean, the fact that, the way things ended with him leaving, and listen, I do think it was overdue, and I think that's pretty much been proven correct now, to sort of fall upward into the President's Trophy winners, that comes with a lot of pressure right now. And with what is happening in Florida right now, there is a very cantankerous fan base that, to be honest, if you're following any of it online, reminds me a lot of what we heard from a good portion of the Jets fan base over the last couple of years. All that being said, Remo, they've lost a number of games. They are not meeting up expectations. And last night after the game, Paul Maurice was playing all the hits.
Look, we don't want to. It's hard not to go down this road. I mean, I'm watching TSN, and after the game, Craig Button comes on, and the first thing he says is, "If you ever thought that coaching had no effect in the National Hockey League, this is proof right here with what Rick Bowness is doing to the Winnipeg Jets." And it's hard not to wonder, like, could Josh Morrissey have been this type of player before if he had been allowed to enter the offense, go deep into the offensive zone and be a bit more free flowing with his play? It's hard not to wonder. Now, you said playing all the hits. I mean, look, one thing we said we did miss, and we definitely missed it when Dave Lowry came in, was all the sound bites from Paul Maurice. But he was in fine form last night, bringing, as you said, bringing all the hits. And I mean, we knew it was going to be tough sledding for them in a back-to-back, and he definitely mentioned that right off the start.
Okay, just play it. Let's hear this for people that didn't hear it. It's almost a trip down memory lane at the same time.
You feel like you're watching. Sorry.
It's tough to dig a hole like that for sure on back-to-back. You don't have the legs, but I didn't think that stopped us at the start of the second period. I mean, it's a tough challenge. I would say that they handled it as best they possibly could. The bench was right after they stayed in the fight. They did the things nothing came easy to them tonight. I mean, we had a whole whack of 2-on-1s. We couldn't even get a puck to the net. They didn't have it in their legs, and they were trying, and we came up short. But they were right. They did what they could.
Back to back, didn't have the leg. I feel like I've seen that before. After a game.
Yeah,
stayed in the fight.
Listen, think about the time zones that are coming in on this road trip. Coming in from the West Coast.
I said
Winnipeg
that
on Tuesday.
That's what I said yesterday. Yeah, going from Mountain Time to Pacific Time back to Central. That's 3 time zones. Us at the end of a road trip here in Winnipeg on Tuesday. I mean, I don't know what the line is on the Jets, but I would bet it now if I could.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to being at the game. And I mean, listen, we're having a little bit of fun with it. And it is certainly fun following the Jets right now. And I mean, so much of the credit, I know people all want to talk about Maurice, and sometimes we're guilty of it as well. But the guy we should be talking about is Rick Bowness and the job he's doing right now with the Winnipeg Jets. And he has been, I mean, listen, we are in a business where we love the sound bites. And I mean, after every game, I'm looking forward to hearing what the coach has to say. Everything that he said has been honest, has been truthful. It has been with a purpose, and it's working out right now for the Jets, at least through this first quarter pull of the season. And, of course, we've got some big games coming up against some struggling teams, Columbus and Anaheim. Hope the Jets can continue their winning ways. And then going to be an interesting next Tuesday coming up at Canada Life Center. By the way, I'm sure many of you have seen this before. A great ticket deal right now for the Jets. For those Tuesday games. You can find out more at their website, but a $49 ticket and you get a beer, which is a pretty awesome offer that we haven't seen in the past. Of course, they're working hard to sell tickets and maybe get some people back in. And certainly I think the team is earning, maybe some folks to, step up and get out and, maybe, come downtown and support the team as opposed to watching on television. I'll certainly be there for the game, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. We are going to get to the Coolbet lines in just a minute. I'm just looking, and it sounds like Mexico is out. They don't look very pleased. They just beat Saudi Arabia 2-1, but the Poles lost to Argentina. But they are quite pleased with everything that is happening right now. Tears, man, the emotion around these World Cup games is just unbelievable. And I will say this, I think I touched on this quickly, but we were so fired up with the Jets. Canada tomorrow. Did get a chance to go to the Senegal-Ecuador game yesterday. And I have to tell you, I've never been involved. I mean, there's nothing like being a sports fan and being around a great crowd. Remo, that Senegal crowd and the African fans in general, but especially Senegal yesterday was unlike anything I've ever seen before in my life. We got into the stadium about 40 minutes before the game, and they were drumming and dancing nonstop, and it did not cease for a second, including at halftime. until we walked out of the building 10 minutes after the game last night. It really, really has been fun. In Canada and Morocco tomorrow, taking on in the final game. One other thing just before we get to the lines that we haven't mentioned yet, but I did want to bring it up. A really ugly incident last night in the stands. And I'm sure most of you have seen either video or have seen people talking about it. Just a really, really scary incident last night of a guy in an Avalanche jersey and I believe his companion probably trashed, getting removed from the building. And, credit to somebody in the stands trying to help security, just, maybe calm the situation down, but get this guy out. And this individual, from what I saw, struck and threw the guy down the stairs into the boards, and it was absolutely terrifying from everyone around. And Rue, I see you got this on the screen. I was going to ask you about this. Winnipeg police have announced that they have arrested a 34-year-old male and a 29-year-old female being evicted from a Jets game on the 29th and are now facing multiple assault-related charges. A 54-year-old patron also sustained injuries when he intervened in an attempt to assist security. This was disgraceful. This was horrifying to everyone around. And I'll say this, for all the challenges of getting people to come into games from a team standpoint, with the price of tickets and all that stuff, this is a serious challenge for teams. From the behavior from a bunch of, dare I say, assholes that come to the game and, become menaces to society. And I was hoping that we'd hear a public arrest from Winnipeg police on this. I hope these people are held to every letter of the law. And honest to God, Remo, if I was in politics, and I'm certainly not, I would have no issue at all with, somebody putting forth a bill that I think should be maybe around pro sports and sports in general, that if you start a fight, if you assault someone, in a public space like this, it's maybe even treated more seriously or there's additional charges on this. This was just a black mark on what otherwise was an amazing game at the arena last night. And we certainly hope that the 54-year-old that sustained injuries is doing better right now. I know the team, I'm sure, will be looking after them. But that was a black cloud over everything else that was great last night. And that is something that happens in so many venues in sports. You see these videos of these idiots fighting each other in the stands. And honestly, it's going to turn people off. It'll hurt teams and it'll prevent people from going and being the fans and cheering on the teams that they want to.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. If you're watching on TV, they didn't really mention it, but one of the periods was delayed. There were pictures and videos on social media. I don't think we need to show them. It's pretty graphic. Watching someone fall down the stairs and hit their head. Someone texted me who was there, said that they were like frightened after watching that. I mean, there's blood everywhere, all over the boards. And I'm reading the police report here that they tweeted out at Winnipeg police that they found an uncooperative adult male and female detained by security. Officers placed them under arrest, escorted them from the stands. While in custody, the uncooperative female spat at one of the arresting officers, requiring the application of a spit mask to prevent further assault.
Who are these scumbags? And then, where do these people, what rock do they crawl out from under?
So officers learned that the male and female were causing a disturbance during the game, which escalated to the point where they required removal from the venue. 2 security personnel, a 50-year-old female and a 36-year-old male, were assaulted while attempting to detain the suspects. Both victims suffered minor upper body injuries due to the assault, received medical attention. Also, a 54-year-old male victim, intervened to assist security when the suspect assaulted him, caused him to lose his balance and fall back onto the ice surface boards, causing a laceration to his head. He was transported to the hospital where he was treated. Suspects and victims were previously unknown. Alcohol believed to have played a factor. So the male was charged twice with assault, 2 resisting a peace officer. The 28-year-old female charged twice for assault a peace officer, resist a peace officer. Pretty gross. throw stuff. Why can't we all? I know they're wearing Avs jerseys, but like, why can't we all get along and enjoy sports peaceful? What's going on?
Well, and you know what? I'll be honest. I've been experiencing that here, and I had no idea what to expect here at something like the World Cup, where the passions are like, cranked up to 1,000. And honestly, for the most part, I mean, everything that's been around, me, regardless of whether you're cheering for Canada, I was in a section, and there was a ton of Ecuador fans yesterday, Senegal as well, and it was what it was supposed to be. It was an incredible fun, a celebration of the sport. But what happened last night was an absolute freaking disgrace, and I hope that those two idiots get the book thrown at them, are never allowed in, never mind Canada Life Center, to another game. And frankly, they should be held to the highest letter of the law, and I will just leave it at that. And thoughts to the individuals as well as the security people that are just there, not making a ton of money, trying to, maybe help their families or, make a little bit extra cash in the offside and the off time from their regular jobs, should never have to deal with that BS. All right, let's get to the Coolbet lines before we finish things up. We got some games in the NHL tonight. Rangers -129 favorites on the road against the Ottawa Senators. Buffalo and Detroit. Buffalo +112. Detroit a home favorite. Still struggling though at -132. Couple big favorites. I like these two. We went on the lock shop. I'm taking puck line on the Leafs -197, although -111 to win by 2 against the San Jose Sharks, who played last night. And the Edmonton Oilers coming off that thrilling comeback win against the Panthers a couple nights ago in Chicago to take on the struggling Blackhawks. Edmonton -217 to win and +117 on the money line. For tomorrow, we got Canada, Morocco, 9 a.m. I will be there at that game, or 9 a.m. back in Winnipeg, of course. +265 for Canada, a draw +238, Morocco to win +117, and Croatia and Belgium going at it, +172 for the Croats, +240 for a draw, and Belgium +172. Wow, that is the first literal pick'em I've seen in any World Cup draw so far. Belgium's been real disappointing so far. They got to get a result tomorrow. Costa Rica, Germany. Costa Rica 20-1 to win after their big stunner earlier. Germany -833 and Japan +765. Who would have thought that Japan could beat Germany and lose to Costa Rica? That is what the World Cup is all about. Spain, a big favorite at -233. And tomorrow's Thursday nighter, lines dropped in this one. Bills -4. 4-point favorites on the road against the Patriots. Totals 43.5. Check out today's lock shop for more, tomorrow's lock shop for more on the Thursday nighter. And, of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Coolbet Canada and at Coolbet on Instagram for more from myself and Jake Bullenmoss's couple weeks here at in Qatar at the World Cup, which is quickly coming to an end. But tomorrow I will be at the game, so Michael Remis is going to hold it down. But we are expecting to get Cole Perfetti on the program. Should be a heck of a lot of fun, and a look ahead to a big Jets game going into the weekend against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They look to continue their winning ways and maybe get to the top of the Central Division, making up with a couple of those games in hand. That's going to do it for us, gang. We got to get this podcast loaded up. Thanks to everyone that popped in. Great to see some of you that maybe took a couple days off last week after the Bombers lost in the Grey Cup and that beatdown in Minnesota. Things are good again, though. Jets are rolling. We're feeling good. And now, of course, a big homestand continues going over the weekend. Don't forget about those Moose games. 11 a.m. tomorrow. Great opportunity to take the kids if you've got some time to be able to do it. And, of course, the Manitoba Made game on Saturday. And tune into the show tomorrow because we do have some tickets to give away to that game. Big thanks to all the sponsors. Welcome back, Manitoba Battery. Great to have Donnie and the gang back on board as we get into the winter. And we'll see you tomorrow. Expecting Cole Perfetti on the program. Do not miss that. And everything more on the Winnipeg Jets. Brandon Wicky's going to pop by. Remis will be holding it down. It should be great. And, of course, Canada finishing up their World Cup run tomorrow, 9 a.m. Do not miss it. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. Have a great night, and we'll catch you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.